The autumn rain hammered against Jefferson Elementary's windows as I graded fourth-grade math tests. At 34, I'd been teaching for 12 years, finding peace in these quiet after-school moments. My phone buzzed. Sarah's panic was audible. Before she spoke, "David, get to St. Mary's Hospital now. Tommy's been in an accident." My blood ran cold. "What happened?" "I fell off his bike. They're saying it's serious." "My parents are here," and ... Double quotes, her voice cracked. "Just hurry." I rushed through downtown traffic, my mind racing. Mommy was 7. Sarah's nephew, who'd become like a son to me over 3 years of marriage. The ER was chaos. I found Sarah pale and tearful. Sitting with her parents, Margaret and Robert Chen, they'd never fully accepted me into their family. "How is he?" I asked, taking Sarah's hand. "The doctors won't say much. He hit his head badly." Up with disdain. "Well, David, what exactly do you plan to do? You're just a teacher. This is medical." Robert nodded. "Perhaps you should go home. There's nothing you can contribute." I sat beside Sarah, ignoring their glances. Hours passed before a young resident updated us. "Tommy's stable, but has a significant head injury. We're monitoring for increased intracranial pressure." Margaret took charge. "Doctor, I'm a retired bank manager. My husband ran an accounting firm. We want the head of neurosurgery. Dr. Martinez is excellent and has been notified." Robert shook his head. "We need someone with real influence, not just," he glanced at me meaningfully, "not just a teacher." Around midnight, Dr. Martinez approached a woman my age with kind eyes and graying hair. "I'm Dr. Martinez, the neurosurgeon. Tommy's injury is serious but not uncommon. Scans show no immediate need for surgery." "What's the bad news?" I asked. She looked surprised I'd asked. "Head injuries in children are unpredictable. We need close monitoring for 24 to 48 hours. "And you're qualified?" Margaret asked bluntly. "I've practiced neurosurgery for 15 years with hundreds of similar cases." "We want a second opinion from a more prestigious hospital," Robert declared. As Dr. Martinez left, I caught up with her. "I'm sorry about my in-laws. They're scared." "Are you Tommy's father?" "Stepfather, sort of. I'm married to his aunt, David Peterson." "Nice to meet you, David. Don't worry about your in-laws." Something in her tone made me pause. "Is there something else we should know?" She studied me carefully. "Head injuries are complicated. Things can change quickly. I want the family prepared." The next morning brought no relief from rain. I'd managed brief sleep in waiting room chairs while Sarah and her parents stayed up all night. Tommy was moved to pediatric ICU. Seeing him so small against white sheets, sheens beeping around him, broke something inside me. "He looks peaceful," Sarah whispered, holding his hand. "He's a fighter," I said from the bed's foot. Margaret snorted. "Positive thinking won't heal traumatic brain injury, David. This requires medical expertise." "I know that. I'm not playing doctor." Good, Robert added. "We need realism, not elementary school optimism." Dr. Martinez entered, checking Tommy's chart. "How are we this morning?" "Any change?" Sarah asked hopefully. "He's stable. His vitals are good. Swelling doesn't appear increasing." "Ow!" "But we're still in critical monitoring." Margaret leaned forward. "We've discussed transferring Tommy to Children's Hospital downtown. They have more advanced neurosurgery," says Chen. "Moving Tommy now could be risky. He's stable here, and transport could worsen his condition." "But surely a prestigious hospital has better equipment," Robert insisted. "St. Mary's has excellent facilities, and Tommy's team knows his case intimately." Dr. Martinez surprised everyone by turning to me. "What do you think, David?" Margaret looked scandalized that a doctor would ask my opinion. "I think Tommy's in good hands here. You've been straight with us, and I trust your judgment. I appreciate that. Trust is important." After she left, Margaret turned on me. "How dare you undermine us? We're trying to get Tommy the best care." "I'm doing what's best for Tommy." "What would you know?" Robert asked coldly. "You're not even really family, just some teacher who married into this situation." Sarah stood up. "Dad, enough. David is my husband, and loves Tommy as much as any of us. Love doesn't cure brain injuries, Sarah, Margaret said. We need to be practical. I excused myself to the hospital chapel, a quiet space with stained glass casting colorful patterns. I wasn't religious, but the peace helped me think. I dealt with their disapproval for years. In their eyes, I was just a teacher, someone who'd chosen a profession without wealth or prestige. But teaching had given me skills they couldn't appreciate. Reading people, noticing details others missed, staying calm in crises. When I returned, Sarah was crying by Tommy's bedside, her parents getting coffee. I'm scared, David. What if he doesn't wake up? I took her hand. He's going to be okay. I can feel it. What if my parents are right about Children's Hospital? Sarah, Dr. Martinez is focused on Tommy, not impressing anyone. That's what matters. As afternoon wore on, I found myself watching the medical staff closely. I also noticed something troubling. Tommy's breathing had become slightly labored, and there was a subtle change in his skin color. 12 years of watching kids for illness. Signs had taught me to notice these details. The machines beeped steadily. Monitors looked stable to my untrained eye. But my gut said something was changing. The question was whether anyone else would notice before it was too late. By day 3, we'd developed a routine. Sarah and I arrived early, spent most of the day with Tommy, tried to rest at home evenings. Her parents arrived later, armed with internet research and hospital complaints. I'd started keeping a simple log of Tommy's condition, nothing medical. Just observations about color, breathing, movements, a habit from years documenting student progress. It helped me feel useful. Dr. Martinez had been patient with my in-laws' constant questions. But I could see the strain showing. During one of their coffee breaks, she pulled me aside. David, can I ask you something? Of course. You've been watching Tommy closely. Have you noticed anything specific? I hesitated. I'm not a medical professional. I don't want to waste your time. Please, call me Alina. I've learned to value observations from people who spend time with patients. Family members sometimes notice things we miss. I pulled out my notebook. I've been tracking a few things. His breathing seems more shallow than yesterday, and the color around his eyes has changed. Alina studied my notes with interest. This is detailed. You've been documenting timing? Yes, occupational hazard of being a teacher. Actually, this is incredibly helpful. We focus on major indicators, but subtle changes can be equally important. She examined Tommy more thoroughly, checking pupils, listening to breathing, testing reflexes. When finished, her expression was thoughtful. I want additional tests, just to be thorough. When my in-laws returned, they were immediately suspicious. What's happening? Margaret demanded. Why more tests? Alina explained. It was routine follow-up, but I could see she was being deliberately vague. My in-laws took this as confirmation of their fears. I knew it, Robert said. This hospital isn't equipped for this case. We should have transferred him immediately. That evening, Alina approached me privately. David, I want to thank you for your observations. The tests showed subtle changes we might have missed otherwise. Is Tommy okay? He's stable, but you were right to notice those changes. We're adjusting treatment accordingly. What changes? Alina chose her words carefully. Slight increase in intracranial pressure. Not critical yet, but we need close monitoring. Stomach dropped. Should we worry? We're handling it. But David, your attention to detail may have prevented a serious complication. Should I tell Sarah and her parents? I'll brief the family tomorrow. But I wanted you to know your observations made a difference. Driving home, Sarah was quiet. Finally, she spoke. My parents think we should get a second opinion. What? You think I don't know? They've been researching Dr. Martinez online, found negative reviews. Can find negative reviews for any doctor. The question is whether you trust her judgment. But what if they're right? What if I'm being naive? In my classroom, I have parents who question every decision. They Google everything. Assume expensive private schools are automatically better. This is different. This is Tommy's life. No, but the principle's the same. Sometimes experience and dedication matter more than prestige. Air was quiet. I do trust Dr. Martinez. She's been honest and genuinely cares about Tommy. But my parents have been successful by making connections, choosing the best options. It's hard to ignore that. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Elena's words, about the changes I'd noticed. I'd learned to trust my instincts about kids, could usually tell when a student was struggling before grades reflected it. But this was medical territory, where my observations could be irrelevant or dangerous. Yet Elena had specifically asked for my input, seemed genuinely interested in my notes. The conflict wasn't really about Tommy's carrot, it was about respect, and about being taken seriously. They saw me as just a teacher, someone whose opinion didn't matter in serious situations. The irony was that teaching had prepared me for this moment. I'd spent years learning to observe, document, advocate for children who couldn't advocate for themselves. But in my in-laws' eyes, none of that mattered. Without a medical degree or high salary, Day 4 started differently. The nursing staff seemed more attentive. Elena checked Tommy more frequently. My in-laws arrived early, armed with research printouts and determination. "We've decided," Margaret announced when Elena appeared. "We want Tommy transferred to Children's Hospital immediately." Elena paused, reviewing Tommy's chart. "Mrs. Chen, Tommy's condition is still too unstable for transfer. That's why he needs a better facility," Robert insisted. "Children's Hospital has level 1 trauma and board-certified pediatric neurosurgeons. I am board-certified, and St. Mary's Trauma Center is perfectly equipped for Tommy's case." "But you're not a pediatric specialist," Margaret pressed. "Tommy deserves someone who focuses exclusively on children's brain injuries." I watched Elena absorb this criticism while maintaining professional composure. "I've treated pediatric neurosurgical cases for over a decade, but if you feel Tommy would be better served elsewhere, I can initiate transfer." "How long?" Robert asked with satisfaction. "Several hours to coordinate and arrange transport, but I stress that any move involves risks." After Elena left, Sarah turned to her parents. "Are you sure?" "Dr. Martinez has been great." "Sometimes you make difficult decisions," Margaret said condescendingly. "David might accept mediocre care, but we won't." Around noon, as transfer arrangements were made, I noticed Tommy's condition changing. His breathing became irregular. Skin took on a grayish tint. "Dr. Martinez, something's wrong with Tommy." She followed me back, immediately beginning thorough examination. Within minutes, she was calling for equipment and ordering tests. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, alarmed. "Tommy's intracranial pressure is rising. We need to act quickly." Margaret stepped forward. "This is exactly what we feared. If he was at Children's Hospital, if he was in transport now, he could be dying," Elena interrupted sharply. "This is a medical emergency." The next hour was a blur of activity. Elena's team worked to stabilize Tommy while the transfer was canceled. During a brief lull, Elena pulled me aside. "David, your observations this morning were crucial. You noticed changes before our monitors detected them? I just saw something. It was different." "That's the point. You've been watching so closely that you picked up subtle changes we could have missed?" "Gosh, if we hadn't caught this, ... She didn't need to finish. I felt relief and terror, knowing how close Tommy had come to crisis. When Elena briefed the family, Margaret and Robert were subdued. The reality of nearly losing Tommy during transfer had shaken them. "Dr. Martinez," Margaret said quietly, "we owe you an apology. We've been questioning your competence when we should have been grateful. I understand your concerns. You're scared and want the best for Tommy. But we also owe David an apology," Robert added reluctantly. "His observations may have prevented disaster." As evening progressed, Tommy's condition stabilized. The crisis had passed, but it reminded us how quickly things could change. "Will he be okay?" Sarah asked. "The bleeding has stopped. Pressure is returning to normal. We'll monitor closely, but I'm optimistic." At night, Margaret surprised me by speaking directly. "David, how did you know to watch for those changes?" "In my classroom, I'm responsible for 25 kids. You learn to notice when something's not right, but this is medical. You're not trained." "No, but I am trained to observe, document, and advocate for children. Those skills transfer." Margaret was quiet. "I've always believed expertise only comes from formal training and credentials." "Expertise does matter. Dr. Martinez's knowledge saved Tommy, but sometimes other experience can contribute too. I think I've been underestimating you, she said softly. It wasn't complete transformation, but it was a start. The crisis had forced us to reevaluate assumptions about who could contribute meaningfully to Tommy's care. Tommy's recovery accelerated over the next days. Brain swelling reduced significantly, and he showed signs of consciousness. Alina was cautiously optimistic, but warned that full recovery extent wouldn't be clear for weeks. I'd returned to school, maintaining normalcy while spending free moments at the hospital. My students made get-well cards for Tommy, their colorful artwork decorating his room Friday afternoon. I was grading papers in Tommy's room when Alina entered with an unusual expression. "David, I need to talk to you." Sarah and her parents had gone home, leaving me alone with Tommy. Alina pulled up a chair. "I've been thinking about your observations, your systematic documentation, your ability to notice subtle changes. I'm glad I could help. That's what I want to discuss. You mentioned 12 years of teaching." "Yes, 4th grade mostly, but other levels too." Lena nodded thoughtfully. "Have you considered that your skills might be valuable in other contexts?" "I'm not sure what you mean." "David, I have a son. Marcus, 15 years old." Waited, unsure where this was heading. "Marcus has been struggling for 2 years. Not academically, he's bright, but behavioral issues, problems with authority, difficulty connecting with peers. That's not uncommon for teenagers." "No, but Marcus's situation is complicated. His father died 3 years ago in a car accident. I've been struggling to balance my career with single parenting." I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." "Marcus has been through several counselors and therapists. We've tried different schools, approaches, nothing reaches him." "Have you considered he might need time to process his grief?" Lena smiled sadly. "That's exactly what I've been thinking. But everyone says he needs professional intervention, specialized expertise." I was beginning to understand. Kids just need someone who pays attention, who notices small things. Exactly. "David, I've watched how you observe and document Tommy's changes. You notice things others miss, and you do it with genuine care. But I'm not a therapist." "No, but you're a teacher. You understand children and know how to build relationships." Lena paused, gathering courage. "I know this is unusual, but would you consider tutoring Marcus? It's not just academically, but helping him work through challenges?" I was taken aback. "Alina, I'm honored you'd ask, but I'm not sure I'm right for this." "Why not?" "Because I'm just a teacher. I don't have specialized training in grief counseling or behavioral intervention." Alina laughed softly. "David, do you realize what you just said? You're using the same dismissive language about yourself that your in-laws used." Her words hit like a physical blow. She was right. I'd internalized the message that my teaching experience wasn't valuable enough for serious situations. "I've been more impressed by your insights about Tommy than by most specialists I've worked with. You observe without judgment, document without agenda, and care without expecting recognition. But your son's problems are complex." "Yes, but maybe he doesn't need another expert trying to fix him. Maybe he needs someone who will pay attention, notice small changes, celebrate small victories." I thought about her request. I'd worked with plenty of kids dealing with trauma, loss, and behavioral challenges. It's not because I was specially trained, but because it was part of being a teacher. "What makes you think I could help when trained?" "Professionals haven't, because you approach problems differently. You don't impose solutions. You observe patterns and adapt accordingly. That's just good teaching practice." "Exactly. And maybe that's what Marcus needs, someone who will teach him, not fix him." I looked at Tommy, sleeping peacefully. A week ago, my in-laws dismissed my contributions as worthless. Now, a skilled neurosurgeon was asking for my help with her son. I'd be willing to meet Marcus, but I can't promise anything. Lena's face lit up with relief. "That's all I'm asking. Give him a chance to be seen by someone who knows how to really look." As we talked about Marcus's situation, I realized Alina was offering something I'd never had: validation of my professional skills from someone outside education. She saw value in my teaching experience that even I had been hesitant to acknowledge. Weeks later, Tommy opened his eyes. It was gradual first, small movements, reflexive responses. Then moments of awareness followed by sleep. Alina had warned that recovery from traumatic brain injury was unpredictable, that we might see personality or ability changes. But when he focused on Sarah's face and whispered Aunt Sarah, the relief was palpable. "Hey, buddy," I said, moving into his sight. "How are you feeling?" Tommy's voice was weak but clear. "My head hurts." "What happened?" Sarah explained the accident. I watched Tommy's face for confusion or distress. Alina had taught me what to look for, and I was relieved to see he seemed to process information normally. Over the next days, Tommy's progress was remarkable. Motor skills returned quickly. Cognitive function appeared largely intact. Alina was cautiously optimistic but stressed the importance of continued monitoring. "Tommy will need educational therapy during recovery," she told us. "Brain injuries can affect learning in subtle ways not immediately apparent." "What kind of therapy?" Sarah asked. "Cognitive rehabilitation, academic support, help with attention and memory issues. Children's brains are remarkably adaptable." Ask the expected question. "What specialist should we contact?" Lena glanced at me. "Actually, I think David would be an excellent choice for Tommy's educational support." The suggestion surprised everyone, including me. But I'm not trained in special education or rehabilitation therapy. "No, but you understand learning, know how to adapt instruction to individual needs. And most importantly, Tommy, you've been observing his recovery more closely than anyone." Robert cleared his throat. "Dr. Martinez, we appreciate David's contributions, but shouldn't Tommy work with someone who specializes in brain injury recovery?" "Ideally, yes. Finding the right specialist could take weeks, and Tommy needs support now. David can provide immediate help while we arrange additional services." I could see the conflict in my in-laws' faces. They wanted the best for Tommy, but still struggled with the idea that a regular teacher could provide meaningful support. "Let me ask you something," Alina continued. "Who noticed the subtle changes that prevented a crisis? Who documented his progress most accurately? Who's been advocating for his needs throughout?" "David," Sarah said quietly. "Exactly. Sometimes the best specialist is someone who combines expertise with genuine care and attention." That evening, Alina approached me with a folder. "David, I want to show you something." She opened it to reveal medical notes, charts, and observations. "These are the official medical records from Tommy's case." I looked through the documents, recognizing some terminology, but not understanding most. "Now look at this," Alina said, pulling out my notebook with handwritten observations, comparing the two sets of records. I was amazed to see how closely my amateur observations aligned with medical findings. The subtle changes I'd noticed in Tommy's breathing, color, and behavior had been medically significant. "Your observations were as accurate as our professional monitoring," Alina said. "In some cases, more accurate because you were watching continuously. I was just writing down what I saw." "It's exactly the point. You observed without preconceptions, documented without bias. It's a skill that many trained professionals struggle with." Alina closed the folder. "David, I want to offer you something. Our hospital is starting a new program, family advocates who work with medical teams to ensure patient needs are met. We're looking for people who can observe, document, and communicate effectively with both families and medical staff. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you an opportunity to use your skills in a medical setting. You'd work part-time, maintaining your teaching career, but helping families navigate complex medical situations." I was stunned.
Oh.
"But I don't have medical training. You don't need it. You need the skills you already have: observation, documentation, communication, and advocacy. Skills that come from being an exceptional teacher." 2 months later, Tommy was back in school, his recovery complete. I was splitting my time between Jefferson Elementary and St. Mary's Hospital, working with families facing medical crises. My in-laws had become my strongest supporters, often telling people about how their son-in-law had helped save Tommy's life. But the most rewarding part was my work with Marcus, Lena's son. We'd been meeting twice a week, and slowly, carefully, he was beginning to open up about his father's death and his fears about his mother's dangerous profession. "You know what I like about you, Mr. Peterson?" Marcus said during one of our sessions. "What's that? You don't try to fix me? You just listen and notice stuff? That's what teachers do, Marcus. We pay attention. Maybe that's what I needed, he said quietly. Someone who would just pay attention. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how much had changed. I was still a teacher, but I'd learned that the skills I'd developed in the classroom had value far beyond education. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Tommy got an A on his math test today. He says to tell you that your teaching worked even with a broken brain. Smiled, remembering Margaret's words from that first night in the hospital. What can a teacher do? It turned out quite a lot.